Hi everyone, Amy here, checking in midweek to talk about your peer review workshop discussion for the campaign analysis blog assignment for this week. So just a quick update. There are a few items in the news already this week. We have my comments on last week's discussion, some information about your sources. Hopefully you've seen your summary essay grade by now, your to-do list for this week, which most of you have already gotten started on if you've been doing the assignments as planned. So going into the discussion, I just want to review a couple of things about the structure of the peer review workshop discussions, because this is our only our second workshop discussion that we've done all semester long. So the workshop discussions are structured very similarly to the writing prompt discussions in the sense that your original post had to be up there by Wednesday night, your comments are due tonight at midnight, and your reflection at the end of the week is due Sunday night. The major difference is that you only have to comment on or review one of your classmates' drafts, because the review that you'll be conducting is obviously a lot more in-depth than what you would put into a reply to someone else's post in a traditional writing prompt discussion. So don't forget that you need to download the essay and actually make marginal comments using the comment feature in Microsoft Word, and then also answer all the questions here included in the instructions in complete sentences for the original author so that they're getting a true in-depth review of their essay from you. And then that's due tonight at midnight. And then don't forget, you do have to do an end of week reflection for this, just like you would for a writing prompt discussion. So that'll kind of synthesize what you learned and what you're going to apply to your revisions based on the review that you received, and then also embed some things that you may have learned from reviewing someone else's draft. So don't forget to do that, because I know every single week I've had to take away a lot of points from many of you because you haven't completed the end of week reflection. So just make sure you do it. Okay, and then I did want to pull up as well the peer review workshop discussion rubric, because again, this is just the second one we've done, and you can see that because you're only doing one discussion this week, it's worth a lot of points. Typically you'd have 20 points for your writing prompt and 10 points for your open discussion, but here, because we're only doing the peer review workshop this week, it is worth 30 points, which is quite a bit more, but again, you have to put a lot more into writing a rough draft of an essay and reviewing one of your partner's drafts, so that's why I'm rewarding that with more points, because you're doing more work. Don't forget that if you don't do the discussion at all, you will lose 10% from your grade on the essay, so that can be devastating depending what kind of grade you end up receiving or earning, I should say. There is a little bit more detailed information here about how I break down the point values, and then some tips on how to be successful in the responses that you write to one another. Okay, so let me jump in here. I'm going to be mostly talking about what you guys can do to improve your drafts to make them more successful and earn a higher grade when you turn in the final draft. So one thing I have said before, but that I really want to emphasize again for the campaign analysis essay, is that you need to focus on analyzing just one ad. Several of you in your drafts were talking about several different ads for the entire campaign. I do want you to pick just one ad from the campaign. Luke, I think that you are one person who was doing that. Every single ad talking about similarities between all the videos. I actually want you to choose and focus on just one particular ad, and it wasn't just Luke. There were a couple of people who were doing that. The way to introduce the essay is to jump right into introducing your article with the author, title, publication, source, and the date. So maybe the website, what that actual ad was called, who is behind the campaign, and when was it posted online or wherever you found it to be. If it was on television, when did the ad run on television, for example? So just jump right into that introduction, and then go ahead and summarize the overall main argument that the advertisement is making, and that's all you really need to do for summary. So Katie's was one example here that went on a little bit too long. before getting to the introduction of the ad. So there's an entire paragraph about background information here, and we don't get to the introduction of the ad until the second paragraph, and then there are several sentences of summary. And so what I would suggest is just remove the background information. You don't need that. You're going to link to the ad in your blog, and so your readers can go ahead and watch the ad themselves, and they'll get the picture as far as background information goes. Plus, it's just a 1,000-word blog post, so you don't have a ton of room to discuss the issue itself. And then just sum up the overall argument the ad is making instead of providing a lot of detailed summary here in the introduction, because you're going to provide details to support your analysis throughout your essay. So for example, if you're talking about credibility, you'll provide some examples from the ad where the credibility was either strong or weak. And so you don't need to provide all those details right up front here. Only include the details that would be relevant to support your analysis later in the essay, and just give us the overall main thesis here. Then you can jump right into your analysis, which Katie, you actually don't get to until the middle of the second page. So I'd really like to see this introduction here condensed quite a bit, this paragraph about background information removed altogether, and then this first analysis point come much earlier in the draft. And then there are some other ways to transition between your introduction of the article to your actual analysis points. One of the drafts that I thought did this really successfully was Amber's draft here. Amber goes right into introducing the campaign. Now let's see, I'm not sure that you are entirely focusing on just one ad here, Amber, so that's something to watch out for. But I thought it was really neat how you went from introducing the campaign to asking a question. Will the suggestions of this campaign be a better alternative? That's a really great way to set up your analysis and transition from summary or close reading to your analysis, which is critical reading. And also, if you remember from the assignment sheet, you have to have a delayed thesis in the conclusion that kind of sums up all your analysis points and ties them to an overall evaluation of the success or failure of the ad. And if you ask a question like this in the beginning, it's kind of like throwing out the pitch for the home run that's going to be your thesis at the end of the essay, to use a baseball metaphor. So, you know, this really sets it up so that by the end it makes sense that you would answer this question by saying yes or no, it either was persuasive or successful or not, based on the analysis points that I've just made. However, Amber, while I think this was really, really strong and an effective choice here, one thing I'm concerned about in this draft is that it's a little bit too much summary and overall synthesis of the two sources, because it seems like in every paragraph, you're really just summarizing some of the points from the Pickens Plan ad and then blending it with other ideas from your supplementary sources and again here. Whereas instead, I want you to pick one particular ad, talk about the appeals to logos, pathos, and ethos, and wherever it's appropriate, you can just bring in one extra source to back up maybe your logos point or your ethos point if it's a source about the writer or something like that. So just in general, I want everyone to watch out for doing a little bit too much summary, a little bit too much comparison and contrast, because again, it is only a 1,000-word blog post, so you're not going to have a ton of space to discuss the issue generally. If you're still going to have room to talk about all of those different types of rhetorical appeals that you should be talking about, because this is specifically a rhetorical analysis. And so along with that, you know, if you look at the sample essay, that's a good example of how I want you to be directly touching on each of those different types of rhetorical appeals to show me that you understand what each of them are. I mean, you can almost think of it like a test. If I was to give you a test and say, okay, what is logos, and provide one example from the article, here that's basically what I want you to do in a paragraph to support your overall evaluation that you'll come to at the end. So with that, I do want you to be using words like logos or logic, pathos or emotions of the audience, ethos or credibility, and then focus your paragraphs around those points so that each paragraph is focused on one rhetorical appeal as opposed to something like summary or an ideas critique that would blend it with the thinking of your supplementary source. The supplementary source is really just there to back up your analysis, and you don't even need a source to back up every single analysis point. I just want to see that you can bring in at least one source to do that. And And so one writer that I thought was doing a really good job touching on those different types of rhetorical appeals was David. David does a great job focusing on one ad, introducing the campaign briefly, then introducing the specific ad that you're going to be analyzing. Now, this needs to be in quotes, not italics or underlined, but that's super nitpicky, so I'm not even going to make a big deal of that. So, but you can see right from the start, David jumps into a paragraph about the emotional appeals in the ad. Then there's a paragraph about the appeals to ethics, and he's using these words. Ethics and ethos are somewhat interchangeable, but he does use the word ethos at the end of the paragraph to wrap up his point, which again is another great organizational strategy. And then another paragraph about logic. We see logos down here, and then as I said before, this is where your specific examples from the essay are going to come in the middle of your paragraphs to support your analysis points. So you don't need to summarize all these specific examples earlier in the essay at the beginning. You just dive right in, kind of like David is doing here. So great job, David. The only one that I would kind of nitpick is this first paragraph, this first, body paragraph. This first sentence here is really just summary. And so I would put the focus on your analysis a little bit more by using this analysis point here as your topic sentence and moving it to the beginning of the paragraph. But otherwise, you do a really great job previewing your points at the beginning, wrapping them up at the ends of each paragraph, and then recapping things at the end, down here in your conclusion. Oh, I may be wrong. Oh yeah, right here. Okay, I knew it was in there somewhere. All right, so let me give you just one more example that I thought was doing a successful job with discussing the different types of rhetorical appeals and organizing them appropriately. That was Jessica M. And then I'll show you how Jessica's also blending in her supplementary source, because that was really effective too. So Jessica jumps right in and introduces her campaign. A little bit maybe too much background information here, but you do see she's citing it. So this is one other place that you can use your supplementary source. Now I do want you to use your supplementary source to support your analysis, as we'll see Jessica does at the end of her essay in just a few minutes. But if you want to bring in some background information here, just make sure you cite it and bring in a source to back it up. But then go right into introducing the campaign, down here, and then the particular ad that you're going to be analyzing. And then just like David did, you can see Jessica here has paragraphs focus on each type of rhetorical appeal, and is previewing those in her topic sentences, and then jumps right into the discussion of the supplementary source here toward the end, which is directly tied to one of her analysis points. Now, I do want to clarify something here. We don't usually think of angle of vision as something that's either lacking or not. We think of it in terms of affecting the text in either a positive or negative way. And Jessica, you're definitely right that one thing that's indicating the angle of vision here is the selection and omission of details. And I think that's really what you mean by saying it lacked something. I think you mean he's left stuff out that reveals his particular bias or angle of vision. And so that's why this is such a great place to bring in your supplementary source, because anytime you're saying this author really glossed over this particular part of the issue, or something was definitely overlooked or purposefully left out here, that's a great place to bring in your supplementary source like Jessica's doing here to say, well, here's the information that this writer left out and how it might benefit the argument overall. Now, one thing I would like to see still, though, is for this analysis to be pushed a little bit further by connecting this either maybe to logic. These omissions hurt the logic of the argument, but because you're tying it to angle of vision here, I think it might even be more closely related to credibility to say, this glaring omission really revealed the writer's angle of vision and made this person seem more biased and therefore hurt the credibility of the article. And then don't forget to sum everything up in the end, all your points, and then say if you thought it was persuasive or not. And here I would even say be more specific than saying conveys a strong message. Say it actually persuaded the audience, or it was successful in its persuasive purpose, or something along those lines. Don't forget your works cited. Jessica did a good job here, but I know there were several of you who left that out of your rough draft, that's okay, but when you turn in the final draft, it has to have your works cited or it's going to be considered plagiarized. And then also make sure that you're only reviewing someone's essay who hasn't yet gotten feedback from anyone else. I know there have been several posts already as kind of heads up to say, look, I'm going to be analyzing reviewing your essay like Luke has done here. And then Luke also already posted his review, which I want to show you all. He does really successfully by doing the in-text comments here, and then down at the very end he's got full complete sentence answers to all of the questions from the instructions. So don't forget to do both parts of the assignment. If you have any further questions about this week's peer review discussion workshop, or workshop discussion, excuse me, please let me know. Otherwise, good luck, and don't forget to do your reflections for Sunday night. Thank you.